Hi there, and welcome to Steps Together, the Steps for Development podcast, where we come together to learn and build our own skills so that we can help the children in our lives to thrive and succeed. I'm your host, Deb Johnson, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a parent, an educator, childcare provider, healthcare professional, or just a family member or friend of a neurodivergent child, or really any child who's struggling, you are in the right place to learn about child development and kids who are differently wired. Here, you'll learn about the why behind behaviors, practical strategies that make a difference, and how to advocate for and support all children as you become empowered with tools and skills that bring lasting change. I was all set today to talk about a completely different topic. And then it hit me that this topic is really important. This idea of working too hard. In last week's episode, I talked about how hard this work is. And it does take a lot of effort. It's draining, and we aren't perfect when it comes to doing this work. But today, I want to talk about the impact of working too hard and how that drains our energy and how it makes it so very difficult for us to be present for our children. Several times this week, I personally was told, Deb, stop working so hard. And it was in relation to children and occasionally an adult. And they weren't talking about me working long hours or, doing too many chores at home. They were talking about me putting too much emotional energy into things that I cannot control, that I was just working too hard to solve other people's problems and to fix things, even to fix things that just didn't even need fixing, right? And trying to control things that I just can't control. And what that was doing to me was really stressing me out. I wasn't sleeping well. I was feeling more anxious and more worried. And maybe you can relate to that. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to unpack what it means to stop working so hard. And I want to show you how that can actually reduce your stress and strengthen your connection with your child. So again, I want to clarify, working too hard in this context does not mean physical work, chores, your job demands. It doesn't mean long work hours. It means emotional overworking, putting too much emotional energy, too much effort into fixing, controlling, or carrying things that aren't yours to carry, that aren't yours to control, and that zap the energy away from you so that you can't put energy towards what really matters. Some of the things that are included in this are things like trying to make a child stay calm during a meltdown, right? That's a really good example. If a child is in the middle of a meltdown and you are stressed and you are dysregulated with that child and you are feeling the pressure in the moment to stop that behavior, you're probably working too hard to control something you can't. Another example is carrying all the responsibility for the child's success, for the child to do well, whether that's in their homework, their academics, whether that's in their sports activities, maybe that's just in social interactions, that you're just stressing and worried and concerned, and you're putting so much effort into making sure that every social situation is just perfect and is going to go well for your child. And another example might be stressing over what others are thinking, right? Being worried and embarrassed about what the teachers think of you as a parent or your child in terms of their behavior. Focusing on being something that you're not, or forcing your child into a mold they don't fit into because of what your relatives think or what strangers think, right? When they're in the middle of a meltdown or whatever. And I think another good example is things like you're nagging your child, right? You're working so very hard, pushing your child to do the right thing, trying to get them to make the right choices when they just aren't ready, and you can't force that. So why do we do this? Why do we work so hard emotionally? Well, there's a lot of different reasons. One of them certainly is because as caregivers, and again, this doesn't matter what role you're in, right? I'm speaking to all of you today. Whatever role you're in, if you're a caregiver for a child and you love and are invested in that child, then you feel responsible for all of it. You just take it all on. You're very compassionate. Maybe you're an empath and you feel everything. And, we're caring human beings and we are socially connected. And that's a heavy load to carry. Another reason we might fall into this trap is the cultural messages we hear, because some people will hear from well-meaning individuals and well-meaning organizations in their life that if your child struggles, it's a reflection on you, that if you were a better parent, this would all be fine, that if you did things differently, and it might be your family members giving you that message. It might be teachers or the educational institutions. Maybe it's religious institutions. Maybe it's just strangers giving you an odd look, and that you interpret that as, oh, I should do better. My kid shouldn't be acting this way. And, those kinds of reactions often come from fear, your own fear of judgment, your own fear of failure, your own fear of becoming embarrassed, or your feeling of embarrassment, right? You don't like that feeling of being embarrassed. And so you're afraid that if you don't step in and do something, if you don't fix it, that feeling is going to get even worse. This need to control, the anxiety that ramps up when you feel that need to control, the stress that you feel when you want to fix it all and make it all go away, is directly linked to your own nervous system regulation. When you're stressed, your brain goes into fix-it mode and it puts you on overdrive. It really forces you into this vicious cycle where something happened, it was a trigger, it caused a big emotional reaction in you, and you became dysregulated. And now your own dysregulation is driving more maladaptive behaviors, and you're caught in this cycle. You start yelling at your child, you start maybe, like I say, pushing or demanding from the child. Maybe it isn't even the child, maybe it's your partner. Maybe you're yelling at the teacher. Maybe you're upset at somebody else and you're taking it out on them because you want to fix this situation so very badly. And it's important to notice that why you're trying to fix it, why you're trying to control it, probably has everything to do with your own emotional needs, not the needs of your child, not the needs of the child in that moment. And we are all guilty of this, whether we are parenting, whether we are teaching, whether we're a caregiver, at a daycare center or babysitting, whether we are in therapy sessions, right? And I want everybody to understand, let's be realistic here. As a therapist, I sometimes work too hard. I get so emotionally invested in a child and a parent that I am working with professionally that it is emotionally exhausting. Some of you have teachers who are so emotionally invested. Some of you listening are teachers. And I want the parents listening to know, right, that these teachers are emotionally invested. And sometimes it is just so draining for them because they're giving their all to every kid in the class. So we need to recognize when we come together as a team, parents, educators, healthcare professionals, daycare staff, we are all working together on behalf of that child. But sometimes we're experiencing a disconnect and we are experiencing an inability to work as a team because each of us is coming at it with this strong emotional context of how desperately we want to fix it or make it right. So beyond this cost of damaging team building and damaging our ability to work together to support this child, it contributes to individual burnout and resentment as a parent, as a teacher, as a therapist. Like you just get exhausted. You start to become disconnected, right, from the adults that you're working with, but more importantly, from the child. And the more aware the child is, the more likely they are to feel that they are not enough, that they're broken, that something's wrong with them. They start to feel micromanaged. Developmentally, children are going to go through stages where what they want is autonomy and independence. And if your stress level is causing you to micromanage them and harp on them about everything and never give them the opportunity to practice that independence, that is really damaging to your relationship and to the child's self-esteem. They're not learning that they have a sense that they have competency. They don't develop that sense of agency, that they can do it. So you have to step back and stop micromanaging. The other thing that happens is a loss of perspective. The more stressed we are and the more focused we are on the negatives, the challenges, the problems, the less we notice the strengths and the opportunities for growth. And we miss the times that we are actually connected to our children. I've had this conversation a couple of times with parents because they're just at the starting of their journey with coaching and they're seeing all the struggles and they're questioning. Like, one parent said to me that their child is oppositional 95% of the day. And I find that hard to believe in reality. I think that is a skewed perspective because the parent is so stressed. And when I challenged this parent to think about the last 24 to 48 hours, I said, can you think of a time when you were connected to your child and you experienced some shared joy, a joke, you laughed together, there was something that made you both giggle or something the child did or said that just made your heart smile? And she said, yeah, of course there was. There were several times. And so it was an important insight for her to recognize that she had just lost her perspective. Her child wasn't bad. Her child is not sociopathic and is not trying to ruin her life. Her perspective is just a little bit off because she's so overwhelmed with this need to control and to manage and to fix and change the things that are out of her control. And then the last cost of this kind of energy wastefulness is that the harder you push, the harder your child resists. The more we try to force change, your child is probably going to push back more. This is especially true if your child is strong-willed, if your child is bright, creative, if your child has some amount of agency and is they're going to push back. They're going to say, stop, I don't want this. And it may also reinforce this negative self-talk for your child. that they aren't any good. So we want to stop reinforcing this negative cycle. So what do we do instead? Here we are, we're stressed, we're burnt out, we're dysregulated ourselves. Every time our kid escalates, we escalate right along with them. What do we do? The very first thing we do is recognize that that's what's happening for us as the adult. It's actually owning it and being accountable for it and being able to just pause in the moment and check your emotions and ask, am I trying to control something that isn't mine to control? And if you're trying to get your kid to stop crying, the answer is yes. If you're trying to get your child to fall asleep, the answer is yes. Mind you, there's a difference between going to bed and falling asleep. You have no control over when your child falls asleep. A simple phrase that you can use in these instances is this my work or theirs? And I'll give you an example of how that would play out. So let's say, for example, your child comes to you with a broken toy and they are sobbing. And that triggers empathy in you, and you just want them to feel better. Ask yourself, is feeling better, your child feeling better, is that your work or theirs? The answer is it's theirs. They need to work through the sad emotions and they need to shift their feelings to happy. Can you support that? Yes. Is it your job to change it or to fix it? No. In fact, stuff that I've been reading lately has really been emphasizing how we need to allow our children to feel those feelings because that's how they learn to cope with them. So it's okay to sit with your child, to recognize that this is their emotion, this is their work. Sit with them. Acknowledge that it is sad that their toy broke. That makes them very sad. And then help them see possible solutions. Help them just experience the sadness until they're done with the sadness. And then they're ready to move on. And there are ways to provide distractors and other things that help to shift their mood. And we'll talk about those in some other episodes here. But just start by acknowledging, am I working too hard on something that isn't even mine? And then the next thing to do, step 2, is to own your own reactions, your tone, and your energy. Focus on creating an environment and a mood that is supportive, that relies on routines and familiarity, modeling regulation and calm, right? Own your response to the child, right? So you pause and notice, is this mine? Is this theirs? Who needs to do what work? And then you own your part. What should you be doing right now? And I'm going to tell you 9 out of 10 times what you should be doing is connecting, validating, and supporting. Just being present so that you can model regulation and calm. It's the co-regulation piece. Step 3 is letting go with compassion. So, for example, the child who is sad about their toy being broken, you don't overcorrect, you don't invalidate, you simply let them have those feelings and you say, I know it is really sad that this broke. I would feel sad too if my favorite toy was broken. And then you might follow it up with a question about solving the problem or 2 options for solving the problem, right? And you don't need to force them, for example, to throw it away. Maybe they aren't ready to throw it away. Maybe they want to keep that toy and sort of mourn about it and grieve a little bit before they throw it away. So it's being able to let go of that with the compassion that you understand Your child is just processing these big feelings the way a child needs to. And then lastly, the last step is that you are choosing connection over control. Throughout this whole process, in any of these big feeling situations, you want to choose connection over control. So you want to make sure that your child knows you're there, that you're there to help, you're there to solve the problem if they need help with that. You're there to just be a calm, steady presence. All right. So I want to remind you that when you stop working so hard, it doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you're caring for yourself and that you're caring in a way that is sustainable, balanced, and healthy. If you have been escalating with a child, if you've been feeling dysregulated as the child is dysregulated, you've already experienced the stress. You already know how exhausting it is. Make that shift. Make that shift today. Stop working so hard emotionally and work in a way that is sustainable, balanced, and healthy. When you stop over-efforting, if you will, when you stop trying to put in so much energy to these things that you have no control over, you create space for growth. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, it's growth for you and for your child. It is growth for both of you. When you pull back and you own what you are responsible for, and you control what you're responsible for and what you can control, and you allow the child to start taking control of what they own. That's how they learn. It's how they grow. It doesn't mean you're not there for them. It means you're acknowledging the separation between the two of you. So something you can remind yourself is, I can only do my work. My child has their own work to do. And we grow best when we stay connected, not when I try to carry it all. So I'm going to do my work. I'm going to let my child do theirs. I'm going to grow my own skills while I help my child grow their skills. And through this process, we will stay connected, and I will be regulated and present and able to give my child what they need when they need it most. All right, let's sum up, and I'm going to let you go. So focus on what's yours, let go of what's not. Ask yourself, where in this journey am I working too hard? Right? Take some time. I hope you find a couple moments where you can go, oh, that's what she meant. I'm pretty sure this is where I'm working too hard. If this episode has resonated with you and you know someone else who would benefit from hearing these words and learning some tools to stay regulated, and somebody who needs to stop working so hard, by all means, please share this episode. Pass it on and let somebody else hear these words. And remember, you are doing enough. You don't need to work harder. You just need to work on different things. And I can help you do that. I can help you, and I'm here to walk beside you and help you in that journey while you focus your energy on things that make a difference and reduce your own burnout and stress while improving the connection with your child. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you've enjoyed what you heard, please share it with others. so that we can all come together to help children grow and thrive. You can follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's links on social media to sign up for my newsletter, so you'd get tips and strategies right into your inbox, and you'll get notified when the new podcast episodes come out. Feel free to comment or send me a message about topics you'd like me to talk about on Steps Together, or maybe tell me how this content has helped you. And if you would like more one-on-one support to navigate specific challenges, or you're curious whether coaching is an option that might help you, please drop me a message. You can email me directly at Debra, Debra, at stepsfordevelopment.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye for now.